Sri Lanka's Prime Minister told protesters he would step down as protests escalate in the nation. Instead, he took on the role of acting president Wednesday and declared a state of emergency. Protesters had stormed the Prime Minister's office earlier in the day. Hours before that, President Rajapaksa fled to the Maldives and appointed the Prime Minister as acting president. Protesters are blaming the top government officials for the country's economic collapse. Prices in Sri Lanka are soaring, and the country is critically low on food, fuel, and medicine. For more on this, I'm joined by Frances Harrison. She is a journalist and author of Still Counting the Dead, a book about Sri Lanka's 2009 civil war. Frances, welcome. Can you explain, you lived in Sri Lanka almost 10 years, can you explain how things got this bad?
Well, it's a combination of COVID, the war in Ukraine, mismanagement of the economy, corruption, and lack of rule of law, lack of accountability. All of those impacted the economy extremely badly in Sri Lanka. Fuel prices have escalated. There's no foreign exchange. There wasn't money even to buy fertilizer to run agriculture. So at every level, there's been really infrastructural collapse. And we're seeing the country experiencing hyperinflation from one day to the next. Bus fares are, escalating. People can't function. They can't refrigerate any produce. So really that the anger of particularly the younger generation who have nothing to lose is absolutely palpable at this point. And we haven't hit rock bottom with the economy yet.
What do you think rock bottom will look like, given your sense of how this is playing out in day-to-day life?
This is unprecedented in the independent history of Sri Lanka. They have never seen a crisis like this that's both economic and political. So we're seeing the economy almost disintegrating. There's massive debt. There's a need for foreign exchange, but really a system that can almost not absorb that at this point, but also a crisis in governance where the democratic institutions are facing, in a sense, collapse as well, because the country can't afford fresh elections. There isn't the petrol for people to be transported around to hold fresh elections. And this younger generation are very angry with the older leaders. And the only sort of constitutional solutions to this are about Parliament meeting again and electing a new president and so on. And most of the individuals who are in Parliament, would really face a crisis of legitimacy with the protesters who are on the street.
Because of that generational gap, they don't have any standing because they're from the previous generation. Is that what you mean in terms of crisis of legitimacy?
Yes, they don't have the standing because of their generation, because they're perceived to have been complicit in the mess that's developed in the country, and because they themselves don't actually really want to stand for election again at this point. Many of them are in hiding, and they're not really ready for a parliamentary election. They don't stand to gain from that. So there really is a sort of impasse as to how to get past this. The Prime Minister, who's now acting president, is extremely unpopular, and his party only won one seat in the last election in 2019. So to have him now hold the highest, office of the state is really a concern for a lot of people. That's Ranil Wickremesinghe, who you're seeing there on your screen. He's really, really unpopular, and I think the concern now is that he may have done some sort of deal with the outgoing president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who's now in the Maldives. And we now have this bizarre situation where the president's fled, but he's still the president, and he's issued a kind of emergency gazette notification appointing this other man to act for him in what he calls his absence. So it's quite surreal.
Right. Answering suspicion with more behavior that generates suspicion. So the chaos is also reverberating into the UK. Members of Parliament are pressing the Prime Minister on whether the government helped President Rajapaksa escape or will help bring him back to Sri Lanka to face genocide trial. Can you give us a little background on that?
Well, that's obviously members of Parliament in the UK who are influenced by the Tamil diaspora here. And obviously, Gotabaya Rajapaksa was the Secretary of Defense during the end of the civil war in 2009 in Sri Lanka. And he's alleged to have been in command responsibility when war crimes and crimes against humanity were committed in that, or allegedly committed in that period in Sri Lanka. So the Tamil population in this country, has been pushing their members of Parliament to, go forward and to take action on this. That doesn't mean that the UK government and our Foreign Office will actually follow suit on that at this point. But I think this does raise a really serious question, whether it's about accountability for financial crimes or for war crimes and crimes against humanity, there is an interesting question where Gotabaya Rajapaksa clearly wants to remain head of state and remain president, even if he's outside the country, because that gives him head of state immunity. So in other words, he can't be prosecuted so long as he's head of state. And so that's why he's so desperate not to sign his resignation papers at this point until he finds some kind of safe port, some sort of place where he thinks he's going to be safe from prosecutions for alleged corruption or under universal jurisdiction for torture or enforced disappearance or the war crimes that occurred in this country when he was in charge of the military.
That's fascinating. Frances Harrison, thank you so much for helping us understand all of those complexities.